We are just over a week away from the season, so let's get that final push in of answering your questions. There's a lot of things that we got to talk about before week one. We've got position battles. We've got season previews. We've got the Connor Stallions documentary. We got a ton of stuff for me to answer, all the things that are pressing your mind, so we're going to address it all right now on the Michigan Mailbag on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. I kind of got caught in the weeds. We're doing a 5 p.m. episode, which that's not the goal. I asked to have all the questions in by noon. I thought, hey, I'll record it at noon. And then I got caught up doing something that took me like 3 hours for Wolverines Wire. Did I say I'm your man on the ground? Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group? Yeah, mumble that. Anyway, let's start off with our leaders and best. Starting with James Crudup. James Crudup 6. If you could take 3 players from the Harbaugh era and put them on this team, who would they be? Can't say JJ or Aiden. Well, if I can't say JJ, that's unfortunate. So I don't know. I would probably, people aren't gonna like this. I'm gonna say Shea Patterson then, because I want a quarterback that's not the guys that we have right now, because we don't know about the guys we have right now. So I'm gonna go with Shea, but I have to go with Shea 2018, not 2019, because he got injured right away. So I want Shea 2018. I know people are gonna hate that. Then I'm starting to look at needs, and that's where I'm going to go to wide receivers, and I'd probably bring back Nico Collins would be a guy that I feel like is desperately needed on this team. And then obviously I got to go defense. I mean, the defense is so absolutely loaded. I kind of really want to add, Devin Bush, but I'm not going to, because I feel like they're good at linebacker. Edge rusher, I feel like they're amazing, but they need more depth. I'm just going to add someone else at edge rusher. I'm going to go with, if I can't add Aiden, then I'm probably going to add, I think, Kwity Paye. And there were so many options I could have gone with. I could have gone with Josh Uche. I could have gone with David Ajabo. I feel like Kwity Paye is a good option there. So that's it. Shea Patterson. I know everyone's going to hate me for it. I don't care. Nico Collins and Kwity Paye would be the ones. Jordan Lewis would be the other guy I would add to pair. I mean, Jordan Lewis, and if I took Shea away, and say I'm going to roll with the quarterbacks, then I'd put Jordan Lewis opposite Will Johnson, and good luck, everybody. That's where we're at. That would be incredible. Josh Barr at Jadeke, in light of Iowa cheating to recruit Cade, what's the worst case of cheating for little to nothing in return you've seen or heard of in college sports? I don't know. I really don't know, because it's not like something I keep track of. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass. I hate to do that. I just don't. I don't know. What did you think of The Acolyte? Felt overly hated to me. It was mindless fun with good fight scenes. Here's the thing. I thought it was the best worst Star Wars show. I did not particularly like the plot. I didn't like the Lost season 2ing of the series, right? With the same episode playing over again. It reminded me, I have like trauma from the first 3 episodes of Lost season 2. Hate it. I will always hate any show that basically does that. I just didn't really like the plot. I feel like they set it up to be like super intriguing, and it wasn't terribly intriguing to me. I was hoping that it was going to go way deeper and really feel like a spy espionage thing. I think that's what we were sold, not what it ended up being. The fight scenes I thought were among the best I've ever seen in any Star Wars. And my other weird gripe is that I felt like the world sometimes felt big in a Star Wars way, and sometimes it felt way too small as they kept on ending up on that one little planet. And I didn't like when the world felt small. I wanted the big. I always want the big with Star Wars. I know you're not always going to do that. You're going to change things. I mean, it wasn't the worst. I think maybe Star Wars series, it might have been, as far as live action, to be honest. But it wasn't the best. But that to me is because there's a high bar that's been set. which one would I rather rewatch? The Book of Boba Fett or The Acolyte? I mean, probably The Book of Boba Fett, but that's only because of Mando being in it. But that's it. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. If this Michigan's success continues, how long does it take for the public narrative to change and people realize the success is because of the culture mindset change and not cheating? Week 2. If they beat Texas, then everyone's going to be on board. Because that's how it works in college football. Any loss, if they lose to Texas, it's going to be like they're falling off the map. They're not going to be good. I mean, unless it's like a close loss, I guess. But I think if they beat Texas, then it will, especially, let's say they beat Texas handily. I don't think that'll happen. But let's say it looks like 2006 Notre Dame. It's going to be off the rails. People are going to forget who Ohio State is. That's how that would actually, I think, go in a lot of ways. But we'll see. Week 2. That's how long. And then they're going to have a long time because they could lose to Texas. And even if they go and they beat USC, they beat Washington, those are expected. As long as they went out. And now if they beat Oregon and Oregon's got no losses or maybe only a loss to Ohio State, then that would at least have people being like, okay, maybe this is 2021 Michigan, you know? Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1. What are you most surprised by in fall camp? I think that I'm surprised by some of this offensive talk of like, can the offense be more dynamic? And I had a phone call earlier today that kind of tamped that down a little bit. So I guess I can kind of take that away. But let's just go with all of the hype the offense is starting to get. So that would be that. Number 2, I'll be in Ann Arbor from Friday till Sunday for the Fresno game. Please give me one place I have to eat at. Frida Batidos is my personal, like, that's, I mean, you're going to gain weight if you go there, 100%, but it's, that's my favorite place in Ann Arbor. Give me a stat that you would find encouraging after the Fresno game. It's kind of hard to tell with Fresno State without Jeff Tedford what that passing attack will be, but if they keep the passing attack under, like, say, 200 yards, I'll be particularly impressed. I just want, let's say whatever stat it is that what I'll be looking at really heavily will be sacks and QB pressures as well. Number 4, can Zuri come say hi? It's been a minute. Let me see. Zuri, will you come here? Might take her a minute. Zuri, come here. Up here she comes, and it's trying to. Sometimes Siri likes to talk when I do. Come on. Get an appearance from Zuri. She's under the desk. Come on. Oh no, over here. Come up here. I know this is fun for people listening. Come up here. Come on. Up here. All right. Here's. I don't know if you'll be able to see her on screen. Let's try to pull. Oh, there we go. Let's see if we can keep a puppy in the show for a little while. She can maybe look out the window. All right, Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156. Who's your wild card player this year? The one who them stepping up outside the obvious will change the trajectory of the team. I would consider Roman Wilson that last year. I mean, Roman Wilson I kind of expected. I'm going to stay with either Kendrick Bello or Amarian Walker. Either one of those guys I think has a really solid shot to be that guy. But because I think everyone else, none of them are necessarily surprising. So I'm going to go with those 2 receivers. As I've said, they are my inflection players. And I mean, Kalal Mullings could also be that if he's ends up being. Okay, Zuri's slipping off my lap here. If Kalal Mullings ends up being Hassan Haskins. Okay, this is too distracting. Okay, you can go lay down now. Yeah, I know. You can't see her on camera, but she's like still clinging to my leg. Finishing us out in segment 1, Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. Would you take Edwards over or under 1,000 yards if you had to bet? I would go over because keeping in mind he was almost over in 2022, and he only got 3 starts, so basically 2.5 starts because he didn't actually start the Ohio State game. So I think with him being the guy who gets the starts, as long as he stays healthy, I'm going to go over 1,000. All right, we're going to continue on. We got plenty more coming. We'll get to those here in just a moment. But before we do, Hey, Locked On Wolverines fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step in the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of Michigan? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Wolverines fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB. All caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy. All right, we're going to continue on here in a moment. Before we do, listen, college football season is a week away. And if you're looking at week 0, it's tomorrow. You're going to want to be like me and stock up on Michigan gear to wear to the game or show your support for the Maize and Blue throughout the season. That's where Homefield comes in. If you've followed the show for any amount of time, then you've either heard me talk about Homefield or if you watch, you've seen me wearing Homefield apparel actually very, very often. If you didn't know, Homefield is a premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis. And whether you're looking for retro modern Michigan gear or just about any other school that you have your heart set on, Homefield has you covered. I wore my Tulane hoodie once to a press conference, and George Hilo was walking out, and he was all excited. He's like, I have family that went to Tulane. I think it was his brother. He's like, "Are you a Tulane fan?" I'm like, "No, I just like their logo. This is cool." There are tons of Michigan shirts, hoodies, joggers, hats, even bomber jackets. But Homefield has deals with over 180 schools throughout the college landscape. Right now, they've got a big can't-miss kickoff campaign where you can get tons of exclusive gear. I went out and got one of their premium boxes, which I cannot wait for that to arrive. It should be coming on Tuesday. And that has 3 never-before-seen designs celebrating all things maize and blue. Last week, they just launched a championship bomber jacket that I wanted desperately. I had to hold off on getting it, and now they don't even have my size. So it's selling super fast. Don't delay. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your first order. That's homefieldapparel.com and the promo code GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your first order. All right, we are on to the Victors Valiant. We've got so many more questions to get to. Let's start with Jim at Jim in the North. Is there a knock on Orji? He seems so talented, but doesn't seem like he dominated the other guys. It's that which he's talked about, which is accuracy. And I don't know about decision making because we haven't seen it, but accuracy being the primary one, I would imagine decision making goes into that. To kind of finish answering that, I'm going to go to your next question, which is how much will we miss JJ's leadership? That's kind of the thing that we have to find out is, does he have that type of leadership? If he's facing a crucial 3rd and 8, can he complete that pass? Can he stand in there and complete it? Maybe he can run for it, but how clutch is he? That we don't know, and that's kind of the thing that we need to see. He is extremely talented, but how does that transfer over, right? Because like Joe Milton was extremely talented, had a lot of the same skill set. Had some trouble with some accuracy, and his velocity was a little too tough. Had trouble kind of making the right reads. All of these things we haven't had to think about for the last 2 years, suddenly we have to think about again, unfortunately. Rank the Star Wars films from best to worst. You're not going to like my number one answer. I'm going to go, okay, we're going to do my favorites. So not best to worst per se. My favorites from best to worst. Remember that. The Last Jedi. Why do I say The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars film? Because I did not even like Star Wars film. That was the cipher. That's the one that opened me up because I'd seen all of them up to that point. I didn't care about them until I saw The Last Jedi, which I think from a film perspective, as someone who has a film degree, before you come at me and anyway, people like to, I remember someone came at me on Twitter once and was like, had a film opinion and they're like, stick to sports because you clearly don't know anything about film. I went to school at Michigan, got a film degree, and then worked in Hollywood for 4 years. At that time, having spent 4 years in school, 4 years in Hollywood, I was more qualified to talk about film than I was anything else. Now I'm 10 years into covering Michigan, so technically now this is the more dominant thing. So Last Jedi is number 1. Rogue One would be number 2. Number 3, we'll go with I'm going to go with A New Hope because I always like more expository things. Don't ask me why. It's like I love the first act of Jurassic Park. Something about building anticipation. And then I'll go Empire Strikes Back. Then I'll go Force Awakens, which is basically repackaged A New Hope. Then I'm going to go with, you're going to think this is really weird, Attack of the Clones. Why? I don't know. I, for some reason, love it because I hated it so much and then I somehow love it. Then I'll go Solo. No, sorry. We'll go Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Return of the Jedi. Then let's see, we got what? One more? Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace is easily my least favorite. I think I got them all. Did I get them all? No, I didn't get the stupid and the Rise of Skywalker. That's second to last, unfortunately. I was so excited about it, and it just was terrible. James Kovalevsky at Coach_Kovo with Andrew Marsh coming to Michigan from Full Sure. He tells me how to pronounce it there. I'm curious who you think some of the best former Wolverines from the Lone Star State are. I don't know because I haven't really necessarily paid that close attention. I mean, Jared Irons, obviously. But, I'm going off the top of my head, so it's kind of hard for me to say who are the best Texas guys. I'm assuming you live in Texas. So we'll just say Jared Irons, who we'll have on the show at some point, that he's the best ever from Texas. I'm probably missing 18 guys, but sorry that I can't answer that. Brett Byer at Brett Byer 6. What do you make of Mason Graham's comments about the D-line depth being thinner? It was, Kenneth Grant said that as well, or maybe you're thinking of Kenneth Grant. Interior-wise, it seems pretty deep with Cameron Brand, Etta stepping up. He's referring more to the defensive ends? I don't know, because it seems like they still got 5 deep in the interior. Exterior, yeah, it's a little thinner, right? Because they had basically 4 or 5 guys that were edge rushers last year, and this year they have 3 that I feel Cameron Brandt will see, but I feel good about the 5. But, I don't make much of it. Well, guys get made during the season. It happens every year. It's not all about fall camp. It'll happen. Part of it is what happens on State Street, but you've got to do well enough on State Street to get put in the game on Main Street, and then it kind of goes from there. And then he continues, also said the O-line hasn't dropped off much. Is his vague answer concerning? No, I don't think it's concerning. I think it's fine. The Rican Raider at Hamstand 87. What is your actual opinion on the term Walmart Wolverine as a fan who didn't graduate? And then he says, actual question, who do you think the DC is next year? I still think it's going to be Wink Martindale. I don't think he's going to be a one and done. Maybe, but I don't think so. As far as the term Walmart Wolverine, I think it's stupid personally. Now, listen, I went to Michigan, but my best friend didn't. My best friend knows more about Michigan and paid closer attention to Michigan in high school than I did. I watched when I was in high school, but it was like, I wasn't a fanatic about it. It was like I'd go to my grandparents' house, I'd watch the game with them, and then I'd go and do whatever I was going to do. But I didn't watch every game. I watched a lot of them. But my best friend can remember it vividly, and he I think is a lot more of a fan. I think it's just a jealousy tactic by MSU fans who wish that they had a large, passionate fan base that existed outside of their alumni base. And they do. That's the funny and weird thing. They do have that. But it's not as big as Michigan. It's just a jealousy thing. That's what I think of it. Mark Z at Mark Zimke, other than the obvious 3, who are your dark horse players on offense and defense who could end up as All-Americans? All right. Jayshon Barham, Kenneth Grant. Well, let's see. The obvious 3, I'm assuming you mean, are Colston, Loveland, Will Johnson, Mason Graham. So let's go Kenneth Grant, Jayshon Barham, Donovan Edwards. I mean, these are obvious on top of the 3. Ernest Hausman as well. Makari Page, Quentin Johnson, and let's see. who else do I want to? Joe El-Hadi, Josh Preeb. I mean, just basically, there's a lot of guys that aren't getting the attention that they deserve. But it's kind of like 2021 in a lot of ways. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. Who was your favorite Wolverine growing up? Who was your favorite Wolverine as a result? And what made them your favorite? My favorite Wolverine growing up was Desmond Howard because I liked the pose. That pose stuck with me, and I was at the formative age. I was 10 years old when that happened. It was like at the formative age where I thought for some reason my memory changed, and I was like, he did that after he scored every touchdown, and I was just like, I'd see the highlights, and I think the highlights lived in my mind as the game. So Desmond was my favorite growing up. And then Tom Brady was because I had stopped paying attention to Michigan for a couple years. Tom Brady then was the starting quarterback right before I went to Michigan and during my first year at Michigan. And I remember kind of quietly thinking what if I have classes with Tom Brady? How cool would that be? Everyone else wanted Drew Henson. I liked Tom Brady. I didn't know or understand what recruiting was, so I didn't care. And then my favorite, since I've covered the team, that one's a little harder. Jordan Lewis, Aiden Hutchinson. Jordan Lewis just because he was awesome in every way. Aiden Hutchinson because I followed him from seeing him as a sophomore in high school all the way through his career. So it's kind of, and he's Lion now, so it's kind of hard not to love him and his family because I know his family. So those would be them. So yeah, that's I think the best I can do there. I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9. Why didn't Michigan come to the White House? I don't know, but I fully anticipated that they would. And I even asked Sarah, I'm like, do you want to go to Washington, D.C. with me? And she's like, no, I don't want to go there. I'm like, okay, fair. It's kind of become more dangerous in a lot of ways, but nonetheless. Why isn't KG or Donovan getting the love they deserve? Donovan is on the cover of a game, but not a preseason first or second team All-American. With Donovan, it's because I feel slighted after he had a disappointing year, given how much love he was getting last year off season. That's why. KG, I don't know why. To me, he should be getting the same love as Mason, personally. We always talk about sports. I think you're a genuine guy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to know how you're doing spiritually, mentally, physically. Spiritually, I'm getting better. I had some moments where I kind of fell away compared to where I want to be in my walk with Jesus, but it became a little bit more intermittent, especially it started kind of with all of the stuff that happened last year and covering all that just consumed all my attention. And I feel like I'm doing a lot better. And Sarah and I are hoping we can go to church on Wednesdays to supplement me going to church on Sundays, something we can do together. So I'm excited about that. And just kind of being consumed by Jesus is my goal more than anything. Mentally, better this year than I've been in the last couple. I feel like 2020 kind of was really difficult, surprisingly. It was probably difficult for everyone. But I didn't just bounce back right when Michigan started playing and started winning. This is the first off season where it's kind of the fall camp. It feels like it did in 2019, where I have energy and creativity and all of those things. So I will say that. And you're seeing a lot of the podcast as a result. Physically, aside from face planting and also way heavier than I have in years for the last 2 years or last year and a half. Heaviest I've ever been, really. Good. But that's why we're going for 6-mile walks. That's what we're going to do after the show. Another one from William. I'm not sure if you talked to Kim's Barn Erico, but why did Layla Philia transfer? I don't talk to her. I don't pay, unfortunately, any attention to the women's basketball. It's kind of a one-man show. I'm far too consumed with football to even sometimes cover basketball adequately, let alone, men's basketball adequately to cover women's. So, because I have to go with where the interest is, essentially. Because if I start going off on other things, I covered baseball for an off season and no one cared. Covered softball a little bit that off season, unfortunately, and they were really good and no one cared. So I have to kind of go where the interest is. Otherwise, I'm wasting your time. And I know it kind of sucks that way, but David G. Van Reenen at XNeil07. I just want to hear you say cheating. I love how you do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Do you think if the spot ever opened up for him that Devon Gardner would be interested in being Michigan's quarterback's coach? I think 100% yes, because I remember having this conversation with him when I said, hey, dude, you should do media stuff, because a casting director asked him to audition for the show Ballers. And I helped him tape it. And afterwards, I was like, you ever think about doing media stuff? And he's like, no, I want to coach. And I'm like, you should do media stuff. I think you could work at Fox. No, I want to coach. Like, hey, let's just do some media stuff for my brand new site, Wolverines Wire. And then we'll see if we can get you something extra to go with coaching. And we did it. He got hired by Fox and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think his love is in coaching. So, yeah, I do think he would take Michigan's quarterback coach if it was ever offered. All right, finishing us out, we got, and we have to keep this under 3 minutes, and we haven't a whole other segment yet. Jacob Shavaria asks, can you reflect on the Signgate coverage you did in 2023? You did an amazing job and actually had my wife, who has zero interest in sports, watching your videos for new breaks in the investigation. And then he says, where did Michigan rank? If you're ranking off returning talent, number 9 is disrespectful. I think number 9 is fine. There's questions, especially at quarterback. That's fine and fair in my eyes. And I think that other teams have more returning talent at key positions. That's why I think that's fair. I want to add in screen legend Anthony Quinn's undershirt. That's a fun name. At blong228111414. And he also asked any insight on the Stallions documentary coming out on Tuesday. Still haven't seen it. Keep on badgering Netflix, like, come on, I am in it. I want to see it. I know people who have seen it. They said I didn't make a fool of myself. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to watch it. But as far as the coverage, I mean, now that you guys know who I was talking to, I was trying to fill in other stuff, you know, from talking to other people around the program and the university and all of that. And, you know, you could tell where the coverage came. If you went back and started hearing me say one person told me this, or someone that wasn't connected to this told me this, and all of this stuff. So it was stressful, to say the least. I'll talk more about that process on Tuesday when we kind of talk about the documentary and everything that went on there. But it was a lot. And I just tried to be as honest with you as I possibly could be. Certainly, I was relaying a lot of information, and there were different things like, all right, can we say this without it coming across as weird, without me having anything other than word of mouth and all of that? And that was kind of the challenge, but we'll go deeper into that on Tuesday's episode, one way or the other. All right, we're going to continue on. We have more questions. We're going overtime. We will do that here in just a moment. But before we do, listen, you've got very little time before football season to get to the ballpark. There's plenty of time to go to concerts and comedy and all of that stuff. And the best way to do that is through Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's also a 50% off Labor Day offer for the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. If you live on the West Coast, by all means, go for that. Lots of great things about Gametime. I love different parts of it. They've got the curated deals that make it easier to find prices on great seats, the super deal, the seat views, all of that. And with Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, we've got so many more questions. So many. I cannot believe how many of you ask questions, but I'd like to get to every single one of you, so that's what we're going to do. Blue Crew, we're going to lightning speed this because we have to. So don't get yelled at for going 20 minutes over. I don't know what song that was that I was just doing. I wasn't really singing. I don't know. Craig Villacerda at coach_G Via. How is a team like Alabama getting treated so favorably? They lost the greatest coach in college football history, several players in a new system, but Michigan is treated like they can't contend in the Big Ten. There's way more continuity in Ann Arbor. In some ways, that's true. I think, okay, you replace Nick Saban with a guy who has won or has lost like single-digit games in his career. Something like that. Kalen DeBoer is no joke. I know Michigan beat him, but he's like no joke with what he's been able to do. And most importantly, they have the quarterback returning in Jalen Milroe. So that's why. Do I think Alabama should be knocked down a peg? Yeah, probably. But, I mean, I think that the offensive system that DeBoer runs probably favors him. And I think when Michigan's breaking in a new quarterback, that changes the calculus a little bit. If it was J.J. McCarthy returning, I think Michigan would be getting the same treatment as a lot of others. Could be like, hey, but they still got their quarterback. So there's that. Data Guy FL at Data Guy FL. If Orji's the choice, is there any chance of the offense putting in an unusual run-centric package like the Wishbone or the Veer? Michigan had an option offense with Bo in the 70s. I think it's certainly possible. I don't know if they have. I think it's possible 100% that they will do a lot of different things as they've shown you. Different formations, different ways to get the defense to think. Michigan's offense is not an easy offense to defend, even if it looks like it sometimes, because they're doing lots of different motions. They're running a mixture of power and zone and all these different things. And if you have the quarterback run, I'm sure they'll take full advantage to that as well. Joe Vitton at Joe Vitton will be the field goal kicker for the season. I would venture to guess, and when I say guess, I mean it will be Dominic Zavada. Two questions of the same nature. Mr. Michigan at GoBlue24, Nate Marshall flip. Taco King 42 also says must talk about this Nate Marshall flip. I mean, it's been pretty clear that Auburn has been kind of threatening. Obviously, it was back in June, and they were threatening, and then it seemed like, okay, let's calm down. Michigan satiated them, and then I don't know if Auburn upped the ante with NIL or what, but it's clear that overnight that changed. I think it was funny to see Jalen Williams after it was announced today. There was he tweeted 3 laughing emojis. I'm assuming it was about that. Keep in mind he shares a state, Illinois, and it's okay, right? Not much more I have to say about it. It's unfortunate considering the guy was like 43rd in the country by On3. I mean, one of your highest rated recruits, according to On3. I think he was the highest rated recruit Michigan had, so that's never great. But Michigan will live to fight another day. Michigan primetime at U of M primetime. Thoughts on the hammer coming down in Iowa City before Ann Arbor. Surely we're next, right? Yeah, any day now. But yeah, it is. Especially because the report is that Michigan had nothing to do with Kirk Ferentz being turned in for the tampering with Cade McNamara. I want to know who it was. But notice how they got all the way to this point in the process without a bunch of leaks coming out. Isn't that fun? Wouldn't that be nice? John Boy at that's John Boy. Number 1, with the new additions to the defense, are we looking at one of the best Michigan defense we've seen in years? I mean, I don't want to say best we've seen in years because we've seen it in the last 3 years, but will it be on par and maybe slightly better than what we saw the last 2 years? I think it's possible. Absolutely. Number 2, is it true we're using Colston, I'm sure you mean, as a Travis Kelce type of role? Yeah, that's what Jerome Moore said at Big Ten Media Days. 3, will we see any Cole Cabana this year? Your guess is as good as mine. And number 4, is Wink going to bring back the Don Brown man coverage? I mean, it's going to be like the defense you've seen the last couple of years. Yes, Wink likes man coverage more, but there was man coverage in the scheme the last couple of years, but there will still be zone, match coverage, all this stuff, right? It's maybe you'll see more man coverage, but certainly you're going to see a lot of zone as well. I don't think you're going to see some mass departure and going back. It wasn't just man coverage that beat Don Brown. It was the simplicity of the scheme and his inability to complicate his signals and sending them in. Again, he was the one sending in the signals, and he had only like 3 of them, and it was very clear what they were running at any given time. Okay, that's why. QBQ question, that's not a thing. That was my own little note that I was reading, like the teleprompter. You know, I'll put anything you put on the teleprompter. I'll read any of it. QB questions for the next 3 people. The React Brothers at Offie54683278. Who do you foresee as being the starting quarterback for Michigan in the 2026 season? That should have been on its own. Davis, Smith, Hart, or someone else. Way too early to say. I think Jaden Davis will probably have a much better chance at that point 2 years down the road because he'll have been in the system longer. But, I mean, I know you're asking me to prognosticate, so I'll go with Jaden Davis. All right, then these next two are similar. Jeff Johnson at LFG Jeff. It says, how long is the leash on the eventual starting quarterback? Is the race so close the leash is very small? And Luke from class at Luke Zachary. Is Michigan actually confident in their QB situation? I don't know if the leash is going to be particularly long because I think you're going to see two guys to start off the year. So I don't think it's necessarily very long. So if it is close, I do think the leash is relatively small. And as far as their confidence in the QB situation, I think that I think they're confident in it, but I don't think that they're confident that they have one guy. And I think that makes it a difficult situation. So maybe it is, if you don't have if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. It might be that. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in a hurry. That's the good news. All right. A couple questions about Jordan Marshall. Lawrence Michael Bentley at Lawrence48204. Will Jordan Marshall become RB2 by midseason? Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. What's up, buddy? Where's Jordan Marshall on the depth chart? Is he expected to play this year? I think you'll see him play. I don't think he'll be RB2 by the end of the season. Way too much depth ahead of him. Could he be RB3? I think that's possible. Could he be heavily in rotation? I think that's possible. I would imagine you'll see him play. Maybe he'll end up redshirting. Maybe he won't. I think that's entirely up to him early. And also it's up to the guys around him. Right? Tavier Dunlap is going to be sitting there being like, I don't want this first-year guy to take over my spot. Benjamin Hall's already ahead of him probably. But he's got the talent to basically work his way up the depth chart. They don't have to start him right away like they did Zach Charbonnet in 2019, but they're certainly going to play him, I think, to see what he can do. All right, a couple more left. PJ at GoBlue300. Given Michigan's historical baseline for recruiting, it seems to me that they are above that. When was the last time we had 4 or 5 top 100 players committed? 2017, I believe, would have been the last time. Didn't work out that year. You hope it works out for this year. They are certainly recruiting at a high level, despite even Nate Marshall departing for Auburn today. Nunya Biz asks, what are you hearing on the Nate Marshall? Oh, that was supposed to be up the other thing. What am I hearing about Nate Marshall flipping to Auburn? I heard that he did it. Sorry, that was supposed to be up above. Tim at 1988456. What is Rayshon Benny's health status? How is he looking in the trenches? I believe he's a full go, and I think he'll be the third in rotation. I'm sure he'll play just as much as the other guys. True rotation there. All right. Voice is getting tired. Let's finish it out. Nick at Nick Austin 13. If you had to lose one body part and gain an additional one, what would those be and why? I don't know why you asked this question. I misread it the first time. I thought it was saying if I could only have one body part, I was going to say face. I'd be like MODOK. If I had to lose one body part and gain an additional one. Maybe a leg. Maybe I'd lose an arm for a leg. It'd be hard to lose an arm, but then I could run faster, I would assume. And that would be good. I don't know. I would lose my belly fat and take on an arm or a leg. That would be great. But that's the best I got. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will be back on Monday when it's game week. We will talk to you then. Peace.